look at who we can be for others. So when we think of community, some people look at a community like, okay, what are they going to give me? And one of the oldest spiritual laws I live by is the more you give, the more you get. I'm not saying to do, I'm not saying everything you have, but who you be of service to people.
Hello and welcome to the Stroke It podcast. I'm Jenny Townsend, your host. Thank you for joining me. I'm so excited for you to be inspired to live your life fully, to take ownership of your time, your schedule, and your life, but most importantly, learn and grow and develop personally and professionally. Myself and others are going to share life lessons that we've learned through leadership, through heartache, through pain, through struggles, and we'll be sharing some success stories with you as well. Super eager for you to dive in, learn, and grow. And once again, just take ownership of your life today. Hello, and welcome to the Stroke It podcast. I'm Jenny Townsend, your host. Today, I am here with Joh. Joh is a mover and a shaker, a business coach. Her bio is extensive, and she's going to be bringing a lot of skills that everybody can use in their personal and professional life. She's also hosting the event in April, and she's going to be sharing that with you. So, Joh, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my gosh, it's such a pleasure to join you, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for anyone listening in. So hi to you as well.
Awesome. Okay, so tell our listeners a little bit about you. You have had a lot of different careers, but for the most part, it's been a lot of leadership and development roles and hosting a lot of events as well. So give us a little sneak peek of who you really are.
Oh, okay. Well, it's got to be sneak. So I'm just very fortunate to be able to share that I've been someone who's had the ability and the opportunity to continually reinvent myself at the different stages of my life. And that transcends both into my professional life and into my personal life. And Jenny, just, I don't want to give you my whole life story. We'll be here for hours. But if I could just highlight a few things I'm super proud of, is I was on the executive team. I built now the largest entertainment management firm in the US. I built the lifestyle division. Then when I completed that, and it was complete, I became a full-time seminar leader for Landmark Worldwide. So I traveled and led programs around the world, impacting people to be empowered to make a difference for themselves in their lives. And now as we talk, you're meeting me as a woman who's 48, everyone, just to let you know, who's married to a French artist, full-blown menopause, so you can kind of get the stage of where I am in life. And here I am now with my own business, being a business leader, an executive coach for executives in different stages of performance in their business. And I love to facilitate and create events. So if you could just kind of put that together, and I'm British if you can't hear that. We're in trouble if you can't hear the British bit. That's a little bit about me.
I love it. I feel like just a little bit younger version of you as well, especially when you're saying I'm reinventing myself. I have ADD or ADHD, and I get very bored. And it's like, I'll do a project. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the next thing. I'm ready for the next thing. So I feel like I'm constantly reinventing myself, which can be very fun and exhausting all at the same time.
Completely.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get right into the topics of today, which is stroking it. And I always find it's really, really important to highlight the love languages. And I didn't learn about the love languages until a few years ago when my husband and I were going through a rocky road. He bought the book and then gave the book to me. And I not only use it in my personal life, but I also use love languages in my professional life as well. So how have you incorporated the love languages into your world?
Yeah, what's really important and what is a love language for me is having quality time.
Okay.
And a real sense of connection and words of affirmation. So how I've incorporated that in my business life is I do a lot of work with women, executive women, professional women. So if you're just starting out in your career, or if you're at my end, you're looking at what's next for you, or you're married and you have kids, like there's so much as women that we're dealing with. It's really important to not only have your professional relationships work, but your personal relationships work at the same time. Because I've noticed sometimes I can put myself so much into my work that I forget I'm married. So here's my little tip that I learned the hard way, if you're listening in, is to make sure that your partner, whoever that be, or if you're engaged or dating or married or meeting people, is, when you meet someone that you really connect to, you want to encourage them to be your best supporter. They're on your, you have a board committee at work, they're called your life committee. This is like the most important person to be your supporter. So when you have time with them, it might not be a lot of time. When I was traveling around leading, I was only home 1 week a month. So when I came home, that 1 week had to be the most connected, rewarding, fulfilling time with my husband. It's not about the time you spend, it's who you are when you're spending time with them.
Yes,
And
100%.
we think, you get what I'm saying? So if you can start to think, okay, I've got 2 hours with my husband, how can I have him be loved up, connected to me, but more importantly, be so aware of everything I'm doing that he's my champion?
Yeah, I want to ask you a question because I
Yeah,
know
of
we're all
course.
listening to you and we're like, you're totally right, but that can be really challenging at times because you're thinking of, well, I thought he would have done this while I was out of town, or why didn't he grocery shop knowing I'm only in town for a week? And like, why aren't certain things done? Like, that to-do list of like, why didn't he
Yeah.
think about this and that? I know it's really hard to draw that line, but talk us how we can
Oh
encourage
my
and
gosh,
help
you
get in that right.
reminded me of this thing I'd long forgotten. Oh my gosh. So there was a time that it wasn't the grocery list or the shopping list. All I'd asked him, he's going to kill me for sharing this, is can you get the flea medicine for the cat? That's all I asked. So I'd been on the road. I came home. I got off the plane. I'm exhausted. I'm with my luggage. And it's here in Sarasota. It's a couple of years ago. I'm knocking at the door. Sorry, my thing's dinging. And let me get rid of that. And I open up and I should be like, oh my God, my husband, I love you. I'm here. But what comes out my mouth? Did you get the flea medicine? First thing, not even hello, how are you?
So totally can understand that.
So this is what happened. So one of the distinctions, one of the ways I got trained is, what am I attached to? Being right or being connected? So I walked in and I just saw myself, and I saw the mood that came in, the positional I came in. You know what I mean? It was like, I'm ready to argue over what? A flea medicine?
Right.
It's ridiculous. And I just looked at him and I just started crying, because I realized that something that small would get in the way of me really having quality time with the most important human being in my life. And I just let it go. And I literally just went to the computer, ordered it on Amazon, got it done, and then spent the rest of the time just catching up with him.
That's really beautiful. And I know that can be challenging for a lot of us, especially women, because
Yeah.
we are so much about the honey-do list and we have all these expectations and we can multitask and we can do all those things. But I
Yeah.
think your point of just being connected and focusing on that, especially if you have limited time. I think
Yes.
about the friends that I have and they'll get a babysitter, they'll go out to dinner, and then they're talking about all these other things and fighting about all these things that are focusing on the two of them and the love and the passion and all of that. So I love that.
Exactly. And what's more important to you, a to-do list or the quality of the relationship you're in? And that's the dance. I'm not saying throw out the do list, but don't let that be the focus, because it isn't. That's just part of the package.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think the love languages are super important in understanding those individuals, and quality time has become one of my love languages most recently. So I love that. Okay, so let's get into talking about stroking individuals in our life, and it all starts with us. We are number one, and I know you chose yourself to talk about first. So tell us what it means to put yourself first, and how important that is, and how that has served you and your career.
Okay, so now this is literally, I'm going to share something really important here. So if you're listening to the podcast, this is the time to listen, all right? So you want to kind of wake yourself up and get yourself inside of this conversation, because if I can have you get this, then I know I've made a difference here. So for the most part, we live inside a context of our business is everything. We're going to work, we're trying to produce results, we're doing, it's like that's the pinnacle to the top of the mountain. Versus how can you get that your business is part of your lifestyle? Your job is part of your lifestyle. So when you, just going to give you a little tip here. So when you start planning your week of work, whether that be a Sunday night or a Monday morning, but put at least 45 minutes into your schedule. But this is what I'm going to ask you to put into your schedule, which I live by now, which is, okay, when is my downtime? When do I go to the gym? When do I meditate? When do I have time with my girlfriends? When do I have time with my husband? When do I have time just to do nothing? Like, why am I filling up my time with everything? Like, I create white space in there to give myself room, because this is not a quick fix marathon. If you want to be consistent and balanced with yourself and life and business, you've got to plan yourself into everything you're doing. Otherwise, what happens, and this is what happens with a lot of executives that I'm now reworking and reconstructing their whole lifestyle approach, is that they go, 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 burn out, want to quit, want to leave their job, want to leave their marriage, thinks that they're all hopeless because they've forgotten to take care of themselves.
100%. Putting yourself on your calendar is key. And I was in that rat race and just right there with you. So,
and Jenny, it's not even putting yourself in the calendar, but you've got to honor it. Like, you would turn up. This is what I really, some of my CEOs like get resistant around this whole conversation, because they're like, you don't understand. I gotta blah, 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 blah. And I look at them and I say, hey, you, if that was a meeting with your most important client, would you cancel it? No. So why do you think you're less important than that?
Or less valuable? Like,
Very good.
when we talk about the value of ourselves and how valuable we are, or if we can't produce, there's no value there. We're not going to make it to
enjoy it. Yeah. Or enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I hate to tell everyone, but we're going to do this thing called life, and then we die. So it's kind of like,
right. Well, I just recently, well, not recently, a few years ago, understood the value of exactly what you're saying. And it took me actually putting it on my calendar. So on my phone calendar, it pops up meditation, snuggle time with my husband, meditation, working out, because I had to get into that routine. And by putting it on my calendar, I kept getting the reminders. And so then it was like, well, this is what I should be doing right now. Stop scrolling on Facebook. Stop being lazy. Stop doing this. Like, you set out a plan so that you could better your mental and emotional health. Follow the plan. And I will tell you, I don't even need it on my calendar anymore. It's clockwork. And it's almost like my body needs it at this point. And to your point with your CEOs, I'm a better leader and person because I made that time for my self-care. And I tell all my team members the same thing. But when you're on that hamster wheel, it's very hard to get off. So what's your advice for getting people off that hamster wheel?
Yeah, and it's not even that. I mean, it is that. I'm going to answer your question, but just kind of, you just reminded me how I discovered why I needed to get off that hamster wheel. So a few years ago, I was working a 100-hour work week, and I was traveling around the world, and I loved it, but it was full on. Let's just call it that. But because I didn't really have any time for myself in the way I now know I need, I wasn't aware of the changes that was happening with me as a woman. I was so busy that I didn't see that I was changing, and I thought it was the stress of my job, until I realized this isn't normal. Until actually my coach at the time said, Joe, why don't you go to a doctor and get your hormones checked up? There could be something else here at play. But we spend our time so busy that we don't spend time to really be with ourselves, to see what is going on with us. Do you know what I'm saying, Jenny? Does that kind of make sense to you?
It does. And I want to even take that a bit further when we talk about the emotional side
Yeah.
of things as well. Sometimes we want to avoid reality, or we want to avoid maybe something failing in our life. So we just put ourselves into work. We don't
Yeah.
allow ourselves the time to just sit and be quiet and be by ourselves so we can process, we can cry, we can release emotions. And that's another really important part of self-care and putting yourselves first too, is allowing yourself to have that white space you're talking about so you can process all these emotions and really kind of figure out what you want to do in the future. And it's super important.
It is. And it's so great that you've discovered that. You're wiser than me. I've only recently discovered that, especially the importance of white space.
Right.
A
I
girlfriend
guess,
of mine, I called her up and said, I need coaching on this and this and this. And she went, no, you need coaching on doing nothing.
sometimes it takes something major happen in your life to wake you up and to make you just like sit back and really think about all of it. And, if I wouldn't have had the debacle happen in my life, I would probably still be going 100 hours a week, not
Yeah.
caring for my body, super, super unhealthy, and things like that. So when you mention meditation and you mention all these things of creating this space for yourself, the first thing I suggest to people is take 5 minutes to meditate or 10 minutes. And everyone's response is like, I could never. Or I'm like, go take a walk. Oh, I could be doing laundry. There's always an excuse. So how do you break down the excuses for the CEOs and for people that you're working with so that they can embrace this white space or be that person that they need to be for themselves?
Yeah. Well, first off, I think one of the fundamental traps we're in as a human being is we live like we can do everything. And the bigger you get and the more you want to accomplish or the more you want to contribute, your to-do list just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And to the point you have a sense of overwhelm doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? So first off, you kind of got to give yourself the freedom that you're not going to get it all done. You're just not. And once you can start to own you're not going to get it all done, you create time slots for when you're going to get to those things that you want to get done, or you ask support, or you get assistance, or you get a virtual assistant, like whatever you need to support you. But you in this view of yourself that you can do it all is the first hurdle.
Yes. I'm wrapping my head around this and I'm thinking, yeah, we do believe we can do it all and we want to do it our way. We don't
Very
want to
good.
let other people do it. We want to have a sense of control,
Yeah.
which leads me to my next question. How do we release the control? How do we just let
Going.
go a little bit?
Yeah. So I don't know. So for me, since it's something that you've got to learn for yourself. See, I can tell you, but I'm sharing with you my experience. But you've got to discover your own experience on how to be relaxed. I notice when I start to get into that mode of go mode, that kind of just like, I'm going to work hard mode, I can feel my shoulders go up. I can feel my mind kind of shift. It gets serious. There's less fun where it's just like there's a whole state change that happens. And when I can start to feel that creep in, I literally turn off my computer and go sit in the garden and get myself out of that kind of just like control go, I'm gonna go. I don't know what else to call it, Jenny. Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm with you. Yeah. I wish I could add and say, yes, this is what I call it. It's go mode. Let's go. Let's slay the day. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. So, but if you're interested in how to have a lifestyle that nurtures you, and if you're interested in staying the course of something, which includes, you work your butt off, but then it's date night, Friday night, but you've got no energy to be great with your partner. That's not cool. So that's what we have to be responsible for, is to notice that what we're giving our energy to is the important thing that's needed here. So we can be a great partner, a great friend, a great mother, a great boss, and be great with people.
Right.
Because
And this
that's
is what you help people. This is what you help people with, correct?
we get into your schedule, we get into your relationships, we get into your self-care practices, we get into your business performance, we get in we I'm like in it with you to reconstruct, and you create a different lifestyle, and you have a different sense of yourself, so you perform your best at work, but then you perform your best everywhere else, including with yourself.
Right. I love that. Okay, perfect. And we're going to have you, will you just tell individuals how they can contact you now? Since we're talking about how you can add value to them and how you can help
Yeah,
change their life and get them as number one, will you just mention your website for me before we go into the next subject?
sure. It's my name. So johmorrisbenichou.com.
And we'll have that in the show notes for you as well.
Thank
So you
you.
have the correct spelling of that.
Yeah, I
Um,
know it's the most weirdest name. It's Irish, British, and French all in one.
it's
So,
unique.
yes, I love you.
All right. So we've been talking about, talking about ourselves and, understanding that we need to slow down and create the lifestyle we want so we can be healthy. But it also takes a support system. And let's talk about friends and family and how important that is and building the community around you. And I know that you're very great at building communities. So let's talk about how we can build a great community around us so that we can be happy, healthy, successful.
Sure. So I'm a big believer, even though I've said put yourself first, it is a dance with now we're going to shift and look at who we can be for others. So when we think of community, some people look at a community like, okay, what are they going to give me? And one of the oldest spiritual laws I live by is the more you give, the more you get. I'm not saying to do, I'm not saying everything you have, but who you be of service to people. So for many years, I've created projects specifically for communities. Why? Because I just love to do that. It's not my business. It's not a way to make money, but it's a way to cultivate and create groups of people who want to connect and who are into the same thing. So I've done a couple here in Sarasota. I have an event called Vibrant, which is a dance and wellness event. And they're a pop-up event. And they're just great. It's for people who are into the wellness space, who love movement. And when I moved to Sarasota, I didn't know anyone. And I was like, okay, well, how do I meet the people I like? So I created it. And now I have a community that I now know of over 200 people.
Are you looking to enhance your relationship with yourself? If so, get the Stroke It Guide. My book is available on Amazon and on my website. Not only is my book going to help you with your personal journey with yourself, but it's also going to help you with the relationships of other stakeholders in your life. For instance, your spouse or partner, your employer, your employees, your friends, or your family members. And of course, because the title, there is a chapter for your pleasure, which is the last one, in the bedroom. The book offers lots of great tools and resources. There's a lot of great downloads, and it features many of my podcast guests, and they have thousands of downloads and resources that are worth a lot of money. So you're going to want to get my book today. You can buy that on Amazon or on my website, and you can change and take ownership of your life today with one simple click.
That's amazing.
But it is amazing. And at the time, people say, why are you doing it? It's not your job. What are you doing? And then you question yourself. But I have this life with these people because of that.
How do you overcome the fear or the insecurity when it comes to connecting with a community? Because I do feel that being a woman, I know some women find it hard connecting with other women in their 40s. It's like maybe their kids are in college, maybe they're moving out, they're early nesters, empty nesters, or they're friends with all the kids' parents, but they're not really digging that vibe. And then you've had COVID, you have politics. There's so many reasons why people just isolate themselves and don't go into the communities or put themselves out there. So what advice do you have for those individuals that are holding themselves back?
Oh my, I get it. Well, first off, I get it. There are so many friends I know right now in the weeds. There's just a lot to deal with in politics. You nailed it. You nailed all the spaces in politics, in being a parent, the school system, the education system, um, women's rights, the climate. I mean, we could go on with all this stuff that's kind of happening. You know, we just got through COVID, the pandemic, and it's just, yeah, that was the time, the last 3 years, people just kind of retreated. Maybe not so much in Florida, because I think Florida is the wild, wild west, but, but in lots of other parts of the world, people literally retreated.
Mm-hmm.
And now, when you start to be part of a community, in those moments that you don't want to connect, because you've said yes and you're part of something, the community, the power of community will naturally support you and pull you out of the weeds. That's the power of community, is the community supports you when you need support. So when I'm out, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm not this superwoman. There's times I'm just like, I don't want to do this. Why am I doing this? I just want to cancel it. I just want to hide. Of course, that's just what it is to be human. But these amazing people around me say, come on, Joh, you can do this. And it gets me out of the funk. So when you start to have a collective of people, even if it's just 2 people, 3 people, it doesn't have to be a lot, and you all share the same commitment, like Jenny, you do with this podcast, that's your expression of creating community. So you and I are having this conversation. And if you weren't doing this, I wouldn't be here. So we are naturally pulling each other into something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
And that's how you get yourself out of what I call the mind trap.
Yeah, I think it's hard for individuals, especially those that maybe just are, I feel like, insecure or don't know what kind of community they want to be part of because maybe they've lost themselves. They don't know what they believe or they're just lost. So
Yeah.
I guess at that point, it's like really you have to look within and find out who you really are by creating that white space. So when you're ready to go find that community, you know exactly who you want to connect with, or is that maybe wrong?
It's not that it's wrong. You're going to do what's right for you. The thing I would watch out for with what you're saying is when you're in that space, you don't want to connect. You want to kind of go the other way. So trying to figure out what group you're in, you probably won't.
Okay.
Okay, it just kind of keeps you more in that space. But I'm just going to coach you from the world of performance. Okay, so performance is you're in the game, you're playing this game called, okay, I'm going to be part of a community. All right, let me just get in the game of this. Now, what would that be? That would be researching maybe 5 interests and saying, I'm going to try one out this week, and maybe calling a friend to go with you because you're nervous. You know what I'm saying? So there's a real actionable action to take on, because figuring it out doesn't get us anywhere. Action is what gets us somewhere.
That's a really great point. And I hope that people take that and make some moves in the future versus just talking about it. Because I know a lot of people, and I'm guilty too, where I'm like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And if I don't have time or if I don't have someone to go with, maybe I just don't do it. So,
Exactly. But if you said yes to someone, they're planning their time. This is going to sound ridiculous. The weekend, I like to relax, and I'm thinking about this weekend, and I've got the opera with my neighbor, and then I've got my event on Sunday. I'm thinking, why am I doing this? I don't want to do anything, but I know because I've said yes, it's going to be amazing. But without that, I would probably stay at home and do nothing.
right. But you're maintaining the relationships. And
I am.
this is what I tell my husband all the time. He's like, you're always out and you're always doing this and I'm out to dinner once or twice a week, or I'll schedule certain things with people. And at times I'm exhausted. I'm with you. I'm like, I don't really want to go, but I know that if I want to maintain these relationships, I've got to invest in time and I've got to be there for my friends as well. So
Do you have any tips or any experience to share of maintaining a really good relationship?
Yeah, it's not about how much time you spend with them. It's about their experience of being with you. So just check it out. So if you're with a friend and you haven't seen them and you spend the whole night complaining, what do you think their experience of you in life is? Maybe do like, hey, we're going to complain 10 minutes. That's it. All right. Just 10 minutes. And then we're going to get into enjoying ourselves. But you know what I'm saying?
Totally. Yes. I'll get
Go
home
some nights and I'll be like, oh my God, that was not good. That was not good use of my time. And the thing is I don't know why, but I love being a therapist, but I'm not a therapist. I need a good therapist number in a car so I can just pass out and be like, call this person. Because
Yeah.
I want to be uplifting and let's reminisce and let's have fun and let's talk about our futures and like what's really positive and happy. But at the same time, I've learned this word listen, which I was not a very good listener before. But some people just need someone to listen to them. So I have been feeling like that's being a good friend. But
it's a bit of both, and you gotta be responsible for it. But just to kind of answer your question, it's just be mindful of, is that person that you're with having a great time out of being with you? Because when you start to come from that place on how to be a contribution as you are, Jenny, how to be a good listener, how to create something, think about a project, then you're someone that naturally uplifts people. You are someone that just gets people up into life. And then if you have other women or other men, it's just not women, it's men and women who become like that, that's a group of people that are really enjoying each other in life. That's the kind of people I want around me.
me too. I agree. That's what I love about communities. And I love being around people. I'm a people person for sure.
Yes.
So when COVID happened, I was like, wait a minute, I have to stay home. I'm not a homebody. I can't go out and meet people. Like it was hard. It lasted like 2 weeks, and I was like, "We're going
Oh,
back to work. We're opening the office. We're going to go back to work."
good
So,
for you.
and we're
Yeah.
in Florida, so we're in the land of the free, so we could do anything.
It definitely is. It
So
definitely is.
I'm grateful to be in Florida and for the leadership in Florida because the fact that we were able to maintain and open doors and keep everybody working and so I know a lot of people think the complete opposite, but as a small business owner, I'm grateful for that. So
I really get that.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so we talked about friendships and we talked about, taking care of ourselves, but let's get into the bedroom. So when it
Ooh.
comes to this topic, you had selected to talk about menopause, which I think is super important because of the amount of listeners that listen and the ages and the changes that they may be going through. So tell us about what no one warned us about.
Oh, that's such a loaded question. Well, first off, I think the first thing to get is when you're, I don't know if you're listening, you could be single, you could be in a new relationship, you could be in a long-term relationship, you could be married, and you could be working out marriage. And I didn't get married till I was late. I got married when I was like in my early 40s. So there is a compassion that you have to give yourself because we, for some reason, stay attached to how we used to be sometimes. So when it comes to your femininity and it comes to your sexuality, when you go through the menopause, and I'm not saying all women experience this because I'm not all women, I can only speak about myself, is my battery just died. There's no two ways about it. It just died. And I didn't know until I knew that it was menopause. And then that just opens up a different dialogue. It opens up a different sense of connection and intimacy that you've got to share with your partner so they understand what's going on with you. But then they understand enough of what's going on with you so you can then work it out on how you're going to make it work as a couple. And it is a dance. And it's, sorry, Jenny, I'm going to go slightly a little bit off target. You know, I have a weekly call with 4 coaches, and we call it the coaches conversation. And we just talk about random stuff to kind of just get a conversation going we can look at. And we're really examining, you know, one of the coaches is gay with 3 adopted kids. The other coach is in an open marriage. And the other coach is wanting to get married. And then you've got me, who's been married for 8 years with menopause. So those are kind of the 4 stages. And we're having this conversation about, what does even a relationship even look like? And there's so much pressure from society to tell you what's right in your relationship. So you just got to follow your instinct and follow your heart and be honest with your partner. And if you come from that place, then you can ongoingly create your marriage inside of a future that you're creating, and giving yourself both space that you're going to change as you grow together. That's all I've got. And that is the secret of the bedroom, is you can't just get stuck in a role and think that's it. There's 2 human beings in there who have got to keep learning and discovering each other.
Right. And in growing together and, you know, adapting as well.
Yes.
So when you mention the 2 human beings and the future of it and having the conversations,
Mm-hmm.
how are you having those conversations to where your partner understands what you're going through emotionally or what your body's going through?
Yeah. Well, we both, he's a bit older than me, so he's dancing with his own energy flow, and so am I. And it's not even that, right? Let's just like take a bet, because I think there's such an emphasis on sex. You've got to be having sex. You can have sex and not even see the person you're having sex with.
Yes.
It's not about sex.
The emotional connection.
Exactly.
Right.
In a marriage.
Yes.
Now, if you want to go out and have fun and play, and that's your thing, you go for it. I'm not questioning that. But there's got to be a connection and understanding between the pair of you, of understanding what's going to work, and always giving yourself the ability to see each other.
I want to dive into what you just said there, because
Yeah.
when we're talking about the emotional connection,
Yeah.
so many people are emotionally not available because they're tired, they're depleted, they're being pulled in a million other directions, and they just don't have any emotion really to give or to receive, especially with their partner, or they're just, how do you get over the hump of that? Or do you have any guidance for that emotional connection if you need to build it?
No, completely. That goes right back into where we started, which is, if you're not spending the time to take care of yourself, to have the energy for your work, for your business, for your community, for your partner. And then also get smart about it. If Sunday afternoon is the one time, you know what I'm saying? That's the one time. So you just got to be smart about what you're dealing with here.
100%. So my husband and I, because it's our schedules, we've had to like schedule time for intimacy. And that intimacy could just be us snuggling. It could be us just holding hands, or just, you know, we call the couch the love nest. Like, should we go to the love nest and, you know, just hang out there? And so we have Freaky Fridays as well. So like when we go to bed, we emotionally know that tomorrow morning, like I'll make sure I'm clean, I'm shaved, and everything's ready to go. He will as well. And then there's other parts as well where it's like after breakfast one morning, you know, depending, he'll be like, oh, and it's like part of me wants to say no, because I'm like, oh God, I gotta get in the shower, I gotta get to work. But I've had to learn to just say yes and go with it, to keep that. So there is that part of having that schedule and then just having it on the fly and making that time for intimacy.
Both. But I think sometimes the trap is if you lose the emotional connection, you lose the desire to be physically connected. So it's a dance with both.
Yeah, I think you're spot on because when I'm talking to my girlfriends, I'm like, oh, just say yes or go home and just go hook up with your husband. They're like, oh my God, I can't even like they're just have blinders on because there's
Yeah.
just not that emotional connection or there's no desire or they're
Yeah.
just disgusted by their partner for one way or another.
Completely. So I think as women, that's something we've got to work on. We put so much pressure on men to show up and be this quote unquote men. They've got to pay me attention. They've got to do this for me. They've got to yada, 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 yada. And if they're not, then we just kind of just get disconnected. And I think it's especially with menopause when your hormones change so much that you lose the sense of your identity for a little bit, and it takes a while to recreate your own femininity as an expression, and that is down on you.
Right.
That's you as a woman, and right now there's if you're kind of going to get me into a bigger conversation here on the time we have, but that's why I created this women's event that I'm about to launch on April 21st, which is called Bluebird. And it's not a feminist thing like it's all women. No, but it's women showing the power of being a woman, and it's women showing that their experience, their life experience, can be their business, can be the way that they contribute to others. So we've got these 5 extraordinary speakers coming to share how their breakdown or their experience, or at that time, there's no way there's gold in this. This is a living nightmare, has literally become their success story and now being something that they can contribute to others. So I think women are extraordinarily powerful. And I think men know this because that's why they love us. You know what I mean? They're not stupid either.
No, no,
So
no.
they're not. So anyway, so if you're listening in and you want to be inspired and you want to meet great people within the community, I created this event for that reason. One, to come and hear from people so you can trust yourself and trust the path you're on. But 2, you're going to meet women in that room. The attendees are just going to be just as extraordinary as the speaker. And that includes you. Even if you don't think you are, you are. Everyone's got something to say. Everyone is a contribution. And we'll put the link into this. But if you're interested in that, I would love to have anyone around Florida, please attend. So we'll get that information to you. And last thing. Sorry, Jenny, I'm kind of like doing this. It's all about courage. That's the theme. It's all about the courage for you to really live the life that you want to live, including business.
I love that. That's absolutely beautiful. So the event is called Bluebird.
Bluebird, yeah, April
April,
21st. April 21st,
the link for tickets and for more information.
yeah, would be on here.
Okay, perfect.
And and there's a website, bluebirdsarasota.com.
Okay, perfect. And we
Yeah.
can also follow you on Facebook, social media. Your Vibrant, your dance and wellness community. Is that a Facebook group that people can join, or is there a link to that?
That's a private group. But if you follow Instagram, if you follow Bluebird Sarasota on Instagram, that's how everyone within the Bluebird community are connecting. So that's everyone who's like, yep, me. These are all the women that are connecting to this right now.
Wonderful. I love that. Okay, Joe, before we leave, will you please tell us one little dirty little secret that you have? Like if there's one takeaway from today that we can implement in our life, what is that going to be?
Oh my gosh, I've got so many dirty little secrets. My brain just.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Okay, all right, this is a little dirty secret. I got invited to speak at the United Nations once. And it was for a publishing company back in my early 30s when I first moved to New York. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to speak at the UN? And I go, and it's for anyway, I prepare and all this kind of stuff, and it's about tech space and computers and green and all these things. And I'm at the UN, and I see this guy, and he looks at me and I look at him, and I left the UN and I went on a date with the ambassador of Dominican Republic.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that.
My husband knows that. That is a dirty little secret.
And how did you get him to go out on a date with you?
Just by being me.
Oh, I love that. Just be you. Awesome. Well, Joh, thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate all the insight and the advice, and you're a beautiful soul. I wish you the best luck at your Bluebird event as well. And I love what you're doing for women. And I love.
And Jenny, at some point, we would love to have you be part of that. So this is the first one of a series, and I just love you, and I love what you're doing, and I get your compassion and your passion. And so if I can support you anyway, I would love to.
Well, I love that. Thank you so much. I wish everyone a great day. Thanks for tuning in today. Make sure to share this, give us a review, give us a thumbs up, and we hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for tuning into the Stroke It podcast. I hope you were inspired. I hope you're willing and ready to take some action. I want to encourage you to consider 5 people that could benefit from today's podcast. Super simple to share this episode. You never know who could benefit from hearing this podcast and how you could inspire them to create the change in the life that they're wanting. Cheers, and thank you so much for tuning in. Also, consider giving a review.